Putin's army carried out its attacks in the area of Bessalovka, Yunakovka, Alekseyevka and Varachino. Analysts from the Institute for the Study of War have voiced the situation in the Sumy region. A Z blogger associated with the Sever group stated that units of the 1st Battalion of the 237th Airborne Regiment are experiencing very big difficulties in rotation in Yunakovka. They can leave the eastern outskirts of the settlement only through an open field. At the same time, the military command of the 1434th Regiment continues to involve the still combat-ready Company V in attempts to regain control of previously lost positions in the Varachino area. The Russian blogger also stated that the units of the 83rd Airborne Brigade have become ineffective after a minor advance from the eastern side of Varachino. The brigade simply no longer has reserves for a further offensive. The same unit has also been unsuccessfully attacking Ukrainian Armed Forces positions on the western outskirts of Yunakovka. The source writes that the occupiers from the 51st Airborne Regiment of the Russian Armed Forces are engaged in remote mining and occupying defensive positions in the Sadkov area. Russian troops have suffered a defeat and lost control of several settlements in the Sumy region, said Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrsky, recently. In the Sumy region, the enemy has suffered a defeat. Despite deploying a powerful force of elite units, paratroopers, marines and top motorized rifle formations, they failed to achieve any success over the past 2 months, Syrsky said. He added that Russia's latest attempt to advance near Stepne and Novokostiantynivka ended in complete failure. The invaders were destroyed and pushed back across the state border. We're continuing offensive operations in the area. Realizing the futility of their efforts, the enemy is now redeploying units from Sumy to other fronts, primarily Zaporizhia, Syrsky said. According to him, the situation on the front line is currently very difficult. It is marked by the continuation of Russia's strategic offensive operation. At present, the enemy is regrouping and focusing on 2 main sectors. The first is the Pokrovsk sector, which remains a key priority for the Russians, and now the enemy is transferring its forces from the Sumy sector to the Zaporizhia direction. In other words, this will be the second axis where they plan to launch active offensive operations, he said. The Ukrainian Armed Forces carried out a precise strike on the location of the 83rd Separate Airborne Assault Brigade of the Russian Federation. As a result of the attack, dugouts with ammunition caught fire and were destroyed. Footage of the aftermath of the attack were published on the evening of August the 26th by the Russian Z channel ZAVDV associated with the Russian army. The only survivor was a Russian occupier who filmed a video from the scene. The footage shows massive destruction and fires. This is all that is left of our camp. The ammo is exploding. It burned down completely. Completely. People died. It is impossible to get to our dugout. There, where it is burning, these are our dugouts. But it is impossible to get there. The grenades are exploding. I tried to put it out, but it was useless. This is how it all looks, the Russian soldier said off camera. The source did not specify exactly where and when the strike occurred. The 83rd Brigade is stationed in Ussurisk and has been actively involved in the full-scale war against Ukraine since the first days. The unit suffered significant losses even in the first months of the invasion. Thus, at the end of March, 2022, the deputy commander of the brigade, Lieutenant Colonel Vitaly Slabtsov, was liquidated. A few days later, on March the 30th, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reported that a farewell ceremony was held at the unit's permanent deployment point for approximately 200 dead servicemen. In October of the same year, another deputy commander, Lieutenant Colonel Oleg Tashmatov, who was liquidated during military operations on the territory of Ukraine, was buried in Ryazan. Almost 4 years later, the 83rd Brigade continues to suffer heavy losses at the front. Recall, the main Directorate of Intelligence of Ukraine reported a high-profile scandal in the Russian troops. In the 83rd Airborne Assault Brigade, officers massively simulated injuries to receive payments and awards. The amount of appropriated funds exceeded 200 million rubles. This was reported by the HUR. A new corruption scandal has erupted in the ranks of the Russian army. According to the GUR of Ukraine, a large-scale fraud scheme was discovered in the 83rd Separate Guards Airborne Assault Brigade. Servicemen deliberately staged injuries to arrange payments and benefits for themselves. According to documents, more than 30 servicemen of this unit were allegedly injured at the front and underwent treatment in hospitals. In fact, they remained in service, receiving salaries, allowances and compensation while avoiding being sent to the front line.
In the Sea of Azov, not far from the temporarily occupied Crimea, a small missile ship of the Russian Project 21631 Battalion was hit. This was reported by the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. On August 28, 2025, as a result of a joint operation of the Active Operations Department of the Main Intelligence Directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine and the Special Unit of the Main Intelligence Directorate, Ghosts, in the Sea of Azov near the temporarily occupied Crimea, a small missile ship of the aggressor state of Russia of Project 21631 Battalion, a carrier of the cruise missiles caliber was hit, the report says. It is noted that fighters of the Special Unit of the Main Intelligence Directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, Ghosts, damaged the ship's radar with an air drone strike, and special forces of the Department of Active Operations of the Main Intelligence Directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine attacked the board of the carrier of caliber. As a result of the strikes, the Russian missile ship, which was in the potential launch zone of the caliber missiles in Temryuk Bay, was damaged and was forced to leave the combat duty area, the HUR noted. Earlier, the Ukrainian Navy destroyed a Russian drone base in the temporarily occupied Crimea. The Ukrainian Navy destroyed the Forpost UAV base at the Kherson's airfield in the temporarily occupied Crimea. According to preliminary data, up to 3 enemy Mohajer, 6 unmanned aerial vehicles and 2 Forpost drones, which were used by the enemy to illuminate the surface situation in the Black Sea, were destroyed.